nurture their businesses. This is my channel, Giant TV, where I have entrepreneurs on here doing amazing things. And Simone Sloan is certainly one of them. She's an executive coach helping leaders build high trust cultures that drive performance and results. A lot about culture. Simone, we talked before. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Excited.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited to get into this because you and I have had a little bit of a chance to get to know each other. Love what you're doing. And so let's just get into it. Tell us about what exactly your focus is with your executive coaching practice.
Sure. With executive coaching, it can take a lot of gamuts, but where we really focus and hone in on is around the emotional intelligence. And part of that work is about executive presence, making decisions, creating teams, and building more trusting, collaborating, connecting teams. And that's where we really start to really understand where the triggers are in terms of how you're presenting yourself, how you're communicating, how are you being received by your teams. And in the same breath, how does that play into how are you making decisions? Are you really bringing people in, or is it more of a dictator kind of style?
Yeah, and so I could ask you to, as we refine this, first of all, who are you working with? What industries are you covering, and is it all over the U.S., international?
Sure, we are definitely national. And what I love is that my background, right, is comes from the pharma and healthcare environments. And so anything that's like regulatory compliance driven, so life sciences, healthcare, financial services, insurance, you're talking about even from technical teams around engineering, urban
Okay.
planners. Those are some of the groups that we tend to work with.
Was it what motivated you to do this on your own, coming from, the bigger companies? I mean, I know people talk about that all the time about you got to just cut everything off behind you, and if you're going to be successful and go. How did you approach it?
It was more of a collaborative kind of approach because what we do around coaching is around relationships. And so you can't just sever your relationships. Otherwise, what do you have starting out, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so for me, it was really important to really think through how my relationships were going to work and how I was actually going to leverage that into this new space because it's about rebranding and also
yeah,
ensuring that they understand, yes, I have this knowledge base and this is what I was doing, but here's what I'm doing now and how can you best support me? And that communication message is ever so important in
love it.
that. So I think for
Yeah.
me, that was kind of like the thought process in terms of I've got all of this knowledge. It's really amazing. How do I now transfer that into what I'm doing and ensure that folks understand that it's me, but in a different way, delivering those services?
Yeah, well said. And so when you're working with these companies around, the culture and how you just explained it, I mean, are the owners running these businesses, are they aware they've got a crappy culture? Or you get introduced to them, you're talking, and you got to flesh it out. Like, how does that start off?
Yeah, what's really interesting, it comes in twofold. One of which, if they have an HR function inside, or they're working with
Ah,
an HR function, because they're the ones seeing it. They're the ones working with the people,
oh
right?
yeah,
Dynamics that take place within. And most times they are seeing the attrition, they're seeing the dysfunction, but they may not have the capacity or wherewithal to actually want to deal with it. So having someone else come in, like you said, when your parents talk to their kids, they don't really listen. They have this outsider tell them the same thing, and all of a sudden, you know,
I got four kids. I know exactly what you're talking about. They don't listen.
they, so that from that perspective, having an outsider come in and really just kind of lay it out, talk the truth, have those real conversations with the team, the leader helps to also help to move that and make that shift along the way.
Okay, so that's interesting. So if they identify there's a problem, when you go in there, are they tapping into you to nail down what exactly the problem is, or do they feel like we already know what the problem is because of the feedback people are giving us, and you need to help us with the problem, or a combo?
Combination. They have an idea because, yes, you're exactly right. They're seeing all of that and getting the feedback and hearing the complaints and everything else and seeing the dysfunction and breakdowns around how they're operating as a team. They're operating in silos. They're not communicating. They're not getting the best efficacy as well as effectiveness from the outputs that are being provided. And so they have an idea, but I said, you know what? People need to feel heard and understood. And so if it's a team dynamic pieces, this is where you kind of break it down and have those one-on-ones to find out what is their lived experience right now. Because everyone's a contributor, but everyone's doing this. It's their fault, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so it
yeah.
becomes important to understand, okay, what are you seeing? What are you living? What are you experiencing? And then listen to the conversations, because usually it's about four or five people on a team, right? Working together very intimately. And
Yep.
once they're able to see what the themes are and how they're contributing and enabling the whole process, where we begin to have those real conversations. We don't play
Okay.
things. We don't try to hide things under a table. We talk about this is the elephant in the room. Day one, let's talk about the elephant.
Yeah, and so it gets me thinking when you go in there and you have leaders, and as far as their personalities and their style and who they are, that's all over the map. If they're not genuinely people, or people persons, or whatever they're resonating that way, is it about setting up the mechanisms within the company that allow them to have good interaction with the employees, as an example, if they just can't do it on their own? Is that part of it?
Part of part of it is really understanding too, as part of this process, is culture and how things get done. How are people rewarded?
Mm, mm.
How are people making decisions, right? All of that is the culture pieces around it. And if the wrong behaviors are being rewarded, then guess what? That's what gets leveled up to the top. And so understanding, if you're trying to make a shift, right, that means fundamentally we have to shift how you do things as a leader. Because yes, you have a company culture, but then if smaller teams, you have these micro cultures. And that's where you can really have better impact in terms of how you lead and how people engage and have that relationship back and forth.
How does that play out when you say, if you're rewarding bad behaviors or not rewarding the right behaviors? What are examples of that? What would they be doing?
Sure, be condescending, talking down to folks, and
Uh-huh.
or treating people like not like more transactionally, like not like human beings, right?
Yep.
And but they're looking at the KPIs. The person's getting all of
Oh,
hitting the KPIs,
right,
but
right.
of the how in which they got those KPIs, right, are not being acknowledged as part of that piece. So it's a negotiation piece. They're top rewarders, they're hitting the numbers, but then people don't want to be on their team. People are leaving their teams, right? And people don't want to, and at the end of the day, it comes down to how you, what's important to you. You say what you say it, but how are you kind of operationalizing it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Rewarding or enabling top performers with bad behavior. I actually, in my own career, have had that experience. There's someone who was a top performer in the office. She was toxic, but she was damn good at her job.
Yeah.
And like she was kept around for too long, but credit to, the owners is they eventually let her go because she was just so disruptive. So I think that's a good example of what you're talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you see it many times in different ways, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So when you're getting involved, Simone, with businesses, who are you interacting with? Are you interacting with the team and the owner? Like, is it a workshops? Like, what does it actually look like?
Absolutely. If it's a coaching engagement, right, where it could be from the leader because they kind of set the stage and tone
Yeah.
how things kind of play out within their teams, then I am working with the team leader, right, the manager,
Yeah.
owner. And with that, it could be a 3 month, 6 month, depending upon what the
Okay.
needs are around that. And but I'm taking them through the self-awareness where we are getting the feedback. So we are talking to their peers, we're talking to their vendors, we're talking to everybody that they touch within their value chain. We are
Interesting.
doing an assessment. So that way now we've got what they said. Here's also some research-based tools that kind of align to that and see what comes in. And then let them sit with it because the information sometimes is not very pretty and we're not delivering it in a way that says and coddling. We don't coddle. So we're really, really wanting to them to confront this because it's feedback that they've not received. And
Right.
sometimes they say,
Right.
"Oh, I got 360s all the time." I said, "Not like this, you're not."
You never met Simone. No, yeah, because I'm thinking I was going to ask you, do you get pushback, and is it kind of tricky sometimes? Because, like you said, you don't hold back. I mean, myself, it would be hard for me to take, criticism. Nobody likes it, So how do you deal with that?
Sure. I say this is in service of you being awesome and people being rallying around you for you to be your best. And how do you level up? And that's
Hmm.
how even when I'm having the one-on-ones with folks, I couch it that way. So it's not this naming, shaming, blaming piece, but okay, what would you want to tell this person to help them level up, to help them be more cohesive, to help them more collaborative, to help you be better as a team? And so
Yeah.
way in which I approach that conversation. So when I'm delivering it, I'm also delivering it in that same style. This was in service of you leveling up, being more collaborative, etc. Right? So that way, when they're seeing it, hearing it, it's taken into that context as opposed to, oh my gosh, people don't like me.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see how that works. What is most enjoyable for you when you're getting involved in this? What kind of keeps your motor running?
Oh my gosh. What excites me the most? I love working with folks, but you know what I love doing too? Because folks sometimes come in and think it's this prescriptive way of doing things. And so I'm like, that's not how it works. But when they get into the process and really see the work and see the feedback that they're getting, that transformation is amazing. Because I know it's not just for them, it's also for the teams that they're working with. It's the functional leaders that they're working with, it's their vendors that they're working with. And that change is just like amazing to me, and I just get really excited and giddy when I see that happening and they're getting the feedback and they're modeling, right? And really
Right.
not being performative around it, really truly embodying it. And that's exciting to me.
I can see that. And the results, towards the end of an engagement, I mean, how do you measure your results? What do you want to see, going forward?
Well, in terms of what we do initially, right, we set up the objective. So we're not just shooting things in the air by the
Yeah.
wind. It's really
Yeah.
around here are some of the objectives that we're going to be working with and working towards. And so at the end, at any engagement, we also have like sort of a debrief where we talk to the key stakeholders in the process, if it's HR, if it's the manager and the coach person also, to really have them kind of to walk them through what their experience was here. And then they get to share back what sort of transformations they observed as well.
Ah.
So it's a really nice, I call it a tabula rasa moment, clean slate, where you
Yeah.
where they can share where they are, but also it's a rebranding too in the hearts and minds of all of those folks that they've engaged in all this time and being able to show that transformation and then have the sustainability pieces around it. I still get folks calling me and saying, "Hey, Simone, I get it. I did X, Y's, and Z's, and and that's
That's
really
great.
it's such a nice feeling to get that feedback and just being able to say, keep doing it. Awesome.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. I mean, I know you well enough now to know that helping people drives you. And so when you get that positive feedback, it's like an endorphin. It's like working out or something. It's so awesome. Yeah. I mean, do you get involved? Kind of imagine some of the personal stuff comes into play with people's personalities. Because I think you even said when we were first talking, I mean, the business and the personal, they're not separate. The personal stuff comes in. So, I mean, does that creep up? And it's got to be handled with kid gloves, right?
Absolutely. And that's why building trust initially is very important. The relationship piece of what we do is really important because we also have to make sure that that confidentiality is kept throughout the process. And I also state too, we're not sharing all the nitty-gritties, but
Yeah.
we have stakeholders too that we have to manage as part of this process. And so
Hmm.
to share out some of the high level things, right? But
Yeah.
personal things do come into play because if you see it over here, guess what? It's happening over there. And so bring that go, and that's the aha moment too, in terms of telling me what's happening over in this particular area and how does it
Yeah.
on the other side of things, right? So
Yeah.
we are human beings, and to say that we separate and we're compartmentalized, some people do that really well, but I think that we are human and things come up, right? And
Yeah.
we have things that are impacting us outside that we cannot control, but it's bringing us frustration, anxiety, anger. It's going to show up in the workplace and how we communicate, make decisions, connect with people. And
Yeah.
those together is really important because sometimes folks don't see that. And that's where it becomes really important to have someone on the outside looking in to say, here's what's happening and what do you see?
Yeah. Yeah, so you're very much an empathic listener and a people person. Where did that come from? Were you raised in a certain way that got you this personality, or what is it? Where does it come from?
People always say I'm a good listener. I think that's my superpower. I just listen.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think I listen for not only what's being said, but what's not being said. And then also, too, as part of that, the body language about how they're communicating and what's going on. Because I'll be in a room with, and even on a Zoom meeting, and I'll see someone maybe drop their shoulders down if they say
Yeah.
something. Maybe look up in this. I said, and that's when I bring them in. I go, "What are you thinking? I noticed this. What are you concerned about?" And then they perk up and go, "Oh, this is what I was thinking," right?
Yeah, that's key. That's key. Yeah.
And just being able to meet people where they are, and but also build that trust too is also key as part of that empathy piece and understanding.
Were you an outgoing kid? You know, were you getting in trouble all the time in school for
I
talking
wish
too
I
much?
were, but I won't. I'm raised by Jamaican parents, so that was not in the in the repertoire.
Not in the mix. Not in the mix. Oh, that's funny. No, I'm always interested because it's hard. I don't know. It's hard to like try to train yourself to be a good listener. Some people have it innately in them, like you, and others not so much. People seem to be talking at each other all the time instead of listening. People just yapping all the time. And so, the fact that you're a good listener, I mean, it just goes a mile long in helping with your business for sure.
Absolutely. It's amazing how that is the breakdown with communications is that folks just are not listening.
No.
And they, and they're saying the same things, but it's just like translation wise, something happens. And number of times that we do it, communication strategies and how to be an effective listener, given everything
Yeah.
that's going on. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, it just reminds me. I always think of, something in conversations, you're meeting people standing around. Rarely, if you bring up something like a quick story, hey, yeah, I went to Spain and it was really fun, no one will ask you a follow-on question. They'll just say, oh, I went to Spain too. And it's like back and forth volleying. And it's like, ask a second and third question, dig in. That to me, that's listening.
Absolutely. And that's the onion, right? Because they're peeling and getting
Yes.
to understand where people are and what they're doing. And it could just take 5 minutes and just in asking someone open-endedly, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
folks just
Yeah.
love to talk and just will tell you how they're doing. And there's so much there. And you can do the follow-up questions to get really into it. But most folks are sitting at the sidelines waiting to speak. And that's a
Yeah.
problem. I'm
Yeah.
okay. And I'm gonna up you.
You're not sitting on the sidelines. No. Well, how does an engagement work with you, Simone? If somebody, do you have a complimentary Zoom session you'll do with somebody? And then what does that initial onboarding look like?
Absolutely. So yes, I definitely have, when I usually do my talks or meet with folks, I said, you can meet with me for free. We can have a 30 minutes strategy session, no obligation, right? Because I just love like supporting people and helping
Yeah.
them. So, and if they find that they like that and would like to explore more, then that's when would have like either a 3 month or a 6 month engagement that we can go into. I usually start off with some questions because I really like to understand the person I'm working with from that perspective. And then from there, set the goals of what we're going to be working on. And then from there, build. And then we start get into the nitty gritties of what it is that you're trying to accomplish and how you want to get it done.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, one of these last questions here on that. So somebody's watching this. Now they understand what you do. What would you say that, they are thinking in their head that would have a need to meet you? Like if they're feeling this way or that way, hey, if this is going on with your business, like what are those things that would trigger, let me talk to Simone.
Sure. You know, I always say that if you want to step out of your box, come talk to me. If you're looking for someone who's going to bring energy and change, in addition to that, actual results that align back to your business, talk to me.
Okay. Okay. Love it. Love it. So I want to tell everyone watching here that wherever you're watching this, because we simulcast it on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, we're everywhere, that Simone's information will be around here. Get connected to her links and everything. Maybe you're up here, down here. But and I've seen your content. Your content's great. You got a huge following on LinkedIn. You're putting out some great stuff. So thank you, Simone. This is awesome. Really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. Lots of fun.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.